Hey everyone, thanks for joining. This is the Long Beach Community Choice Energy webinar. So if that is not what you're here for, I'm sorry, but you should still stay. We're just going to wait a couple minutes for everybody to just kind of filter in, going to be a little graceful since we're all learning how to live virtually. And for some folks, that means it takes a couple more minutes to get everything in order. But again, thank you so much. This is the Long Beach Community Choice Energy webinar. We're really stoked to have everybody. But while I have your attention, I just want to let folks know it would be really helpful to just kind of establish a couple kind of like webinar norms. This is a different format than just meeting in person. We're asking everybody to keep their mics muted just so that the presenters can speak clearly and everybody can hear what they're saying. Because some of this stuff does get wonky, so you're going to want to hear it as clearly as possible. Also, another recommendation, if you are on the computer and you see a big grid full of a bunch of people, take the time to see everybody's faces. But once you're doing so, there's a little tab at the top right, which says speaker view. And when you click speaker view, that means that essentially the person who's talking is the person that you'll be seeing mostly on your screen. In that way, because we'll be just going speaker to speaker, that also allows you to not go all over the place. If you're like me, you can stay focused on what's going on. And we don't want anybody to feel really anxious, since some of this stuff, again, can get a little wonky. We will be sending out a follow-up email with the presentation itself and a couple other resources so that you can look on it on your own time. We don't expect you to become experts in a 1-hour session, but we do want to give you the resources so you know what the hell we're talking about. So again, yeah, we'll just take a couple more minutes. For those of you who just joined, welcome. This is the Long Beach Community Choice Energy webinar. We'll just get started in a couple more minutes. Also, before I forget, if you have any questions throughout the webinar or even right now, feel free to chat them into the box. If it's like logistical housekeeping things, we'll try to respond quickly over chat. But we will have a designated time at the end where we'll try to address all the questions that you have. We always want to hear what's on your mind, what you're thinking, what you're confused about. And there are no dumb questions. This is all a learning process, even for myself. Yeah, so I'll just take a couple more minutes. Maybe we'll take like about 1 more minute. Awesome. All right. So thank you again for joining us. I'm actually going to just start it off. My name's Francis. I'm an organizer with the My Generation campaign and Sierra Club. And this is the Long Beach Community Choice Energy webinar. So we're really excited that you're able to come out here on a Monday evening of all times. We really appreciate that. So I just kind of want to start off because we have a lot of different speakers, because our group is very engaged and has a big diversity of different folks who come from different spheres. But I just want to introduce kind of what we're doing, why we're doing this, and what we're looking forward to. As many of you know, we're in really precocious times, and I just want to name some elephants in the room that we are still in the midst of a global pandemic, so please stay safe. And we are in the midst of a social justice uprising. All of these things not only empower us and make us afraid, but also inform the work that we need to do to make sure that we can live a sustainable and equitable life and create one for the future generations. The working group is what we call it. Essentially, the people who work for CCA in Long Beach are pretty much all here, and we have a host of different speakers to explain all the different dimensions of why we do this work and what we do. Just as I mentioned beforehand, energy is extremely wonky. If you or your loved ones know how the energy system works, you are gifted and smart people. But if you're like me, it is very much a learning process, and it's difficult and challenging, which is why we're doing something like this. So at least you can get a 101 and know what the hell you're talking about as you advocate in your own life. And so with that, I actually want to introduce our next speaker, who is going to tell their story about why they do this work. So Stella, you want to take it off?
Thank you, Francis. And thanks for everyone that's on the call joining us today. First off, I do want to thank Francis and the Sierra Club for organizing this webinar and for their vital work throughout the years in practicing and promoting the responsible use of the Earth's ecosystems and resources. My name is Stella Ursua. I'm a member of the Long Beach Community Choice Energy Work Group. And I'm also the Clean Mobility and Partnerships Manager at Grid Alternatives Greater Los Angeles. I've been there just shy of about 4 years. At Grid Alternatives, we advance environmental, racial, and economic justice, addressing systemic inequities through renewable energy and clean transportation. And just real quick, since 2007, we've provided approximately 1,500 families across LA, Orange, and Ventura counties with long-term solutions for high energy bills. We also offer community members hands-on experience that can help them obtain employment in the rapidly growing solar industry. And we produce clean energy and help them produce clean energy and help them reduce carbon emissions. In Long Beach alone, we've connected approximately 250 families and numerous residents to these benefits. Before joining Grid, I ran Green Education, Inc., during which we created the Green Prize Festival. Some of you might remember that yearly Earth Day event. We strategically held this in different neighborhoods across Long Beach with the goal of producing this event to provide underserved communities with access to green organizations, vendors, and entrepreneurs that provided information and services that are related to renewable energy, to urban farming, energy efficiency, clean transportation, and the fight against climate change. I'm part of the LBCCE because I want to make sure that our city has the chance to create a clean energy program with a revenue stream that can create not only clean power, but good green jobs and competitive electricity rates for Long Beach residential ratepayers, like the 20 plus other organized CCEs that are successfully operating across California. With that, I would like to introduce you to another work group member, Kevin Velasquez, a Long Beach community member and environmental activist who is a strong supporter of establishing our own community choice program for our city. Thank you. Take it away, Kevin.
Thank you so much, Stella. And I also want to thank the Sierra Club for putting on this wonderful webinar just to educate all of us. So thank you, Sierra Club. My name is Kevin Velasquez. I am an elementary school teacher, and basically I'm a concerned Long Beach resident who loves the planet and loves others. So with that, I'll give you some history. I grew up here in Long Beach, and as an adult, I consciously chose to raise my 3 boys in Long Beach because of its diversity and open-minded atmosphere. As head of household and sole provider for my family, I'm busy with work, paying bills, and my most important job, parenting. I got involved with Long Beach Community Choice Energy because as a parent, I'm the most important role model and influence in the lives of the 3 young men in my home. The only way I believed I could provide the most powerful and positive impact in the lives of the 3 boys and my community was to get involved. I learned about community choice energy a few years back and became quite passionate about all the benefits a CCE model provided. It was a win-win for both the community and the environment. I studied more about how they've been implemented in various locations, first on the East Coast and then here in California. In every location, they were providing cleaner energy, cheaper or similar rates, which were projected only to go down lower the longer the CCE model was in effect, and local jobs for the community. The byproducts of these effects are only positive as well and address the urgent needs of today's challenges. Our city disproportionately pollutes, and if a family lives in high GHG emissions areas, their quality of life and life expectancy rates go down. Many people have no choice due to economic constraints and are suffering the consequences in their health and well-being more significantly just by living in certain spots on the Long Beach map. By realizing there's a better way to help remedy this problem, I had no choice but to get involved and to show the lives of the 3 boys I'm mothering the power and responsibility we have in each inside of us to create change. Community choice energy for Long Beach is just one aspect of addressing the needs and challenges of our lifetime. And after hearing more about community choice energy, I hope you will all agree. And with that, I'd love to pass it to the most wonderful Tiffany to explain more.
Thank you, Kevin. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for your attendance in this webinar. Many thanks to Francis Yang for opening up this webinar, Stella Ursula, and Kevin Smith Velasquez. My name is Tiffany Seymour Davey, and I'm a community organizer here in Long Beach. For over a decade, my work and main areas of focus have been around community education, local elections, housing rights advocacy, caregiving for the elderly, environmental and climate justice, as well as emergency planning, most recently with the California Office of Emergency Services. I'm also a local champion for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Community Choice Energy advocates and supports multiple goals. The first is Goal 8, decent work and economic growth. Goal 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Goal 10, reduce inequalities. Goal 11, sustainable cities and communities. And finally, Global Goal 7, affordable and clean energy. In support of Goal 7, with creating a community choice energy program in Long Beach, it is of benefit to democratize, give people the options with their energy as well as many choices, promote local investment and job creation from the CCA program revenues, and meet California's statutory greenhouse gas emission reduction targets. As a member of the community of color that advocated for AB 32, we need to go bolder in the 2010. With that, I'm proud to introduce the chair of our Long Beach Community Choice Energy Working Group, Clay Sandage, as he walks us through what a CCA is and how Long Beach will benefit from its creation.
Thank you very much. Greatly appreciate that, Tiffany. And once again, a shout out to Francis and the Sierra Club for organizing this educational event. I am going to be speaking to a presentation. So Deanna, if you could go ahead and pull that up, I would appreciate it. And hopefully we can get the beeping sounds worked out. I don't know what those are, but hopefully Francis can handle that. As mentioned, I'm Clay Sandage. I've been the chair of the Long Beach Community Choice Energy Working Group for over 3 years now. It's been a very long, arduous road, a lot of work with the city and various stakeholders within the city to educate them on what community choice energy is. Let's jump to the next slide, please, Deanna. Community choice aggregation, also known as community choice energy, and we refer to it as community choice energy here in Long Beach. It's an alternative to the incumbent investor-owned utility energy supply system, in our case, Southern California Edison, and it empowers us to utilize our resources, our residential and commercial customers within a defined jurisdiction to secure alternative energy supply channels. So we could buy and procure the energy within Long Beach Community Choice Energy if we form this. This community choice aggregation was enacted into law in 2002 under AB 117. It was in response to the Enron crisis, where deregulation of electricity and electricity utilities or electric utilities led to price gouging and by out-of-state operators. I think we all recall the deregulation, and it's basically decoupling of generation from transmission. Next slide. So who is the Long Beach Community Choice Energy Working Group? We're a group of 20 plus active members that comprises local business, city staff, port staff, labor unions, environmental justice groups and committees. We've got Long Beach, Cal State Long Beach, and academia, and we've engaged several neighborhood groups over the last 3 years. It's been a very active group. We have met many times with the local community and neighborhood groups. We've had multiple meetings with city council and the mayor and city staff to educate them on what community choice energy could mean for Long Beach and why it's the best alternative for Long Beach. Next slide, please. So why implement a community choice energy program in Long Beach? There's a multitude of reasons, and I think as we get through this presentation, Hopefully it'll generate some ideas from you, those of you on the call today, of what it means to you and personally, and what it might mean to your neighbors and your family. But I think if we really start to break it down, a resilient recovery from the current times that we're in, it's really about supporting green jobs and a just economic transition from where we were 6 months ago or a year ago to where we can be in 6 months or a year from now. It's about community benefit, equitable and sustainable programs that really target the frontline communities first. And you'll see in some of the slides that are forthcoming where we are going to be targeting some of these frontline communities and why these frontline communities are so meaningful to a Long Beach Community Choice program. It's about clean energy. You know, how do we green the electricity grid, reducing air pollution, meeting and accelerating our climate goals within the city? It's no secret that we live in a port community. We've got some of the highest air pollution rates, certainly in the LA basin, if not in the US. We've got a lot of different means and mechanisms to reduce that air pollution. But this certainly, I think you'll see in some of the upcoming slides, how this community choice program can help reduce air pollution at a much more rapid pace. It gives you freedom of choice. As a ratepayer, it gives you an option of where you can buy your electrons, whether through Southern California Edison, or in our case, through a community choice program. So it really gives a choice to the community, not only the residential ratepayers, but the commercial industrial ratepayers. And really, you bill it back down to local control. It promotes accountability and transparency. We, as the city of Long Beach, and those that we appoint to administer this program, would be accountable. And the revenues that would be generated from power purchase agreements that we would procure and hire local jobs, we would keep those jobs in Long Beach. And you know, that transparency aspect of that would be noticeable to all. And then ultimately, it's financially sound. It generates revenue to keep rates lower and offer community programs. Across the state, I think the average of all the community choice aggregation programs that have launched, we're seeing about an average of a 4% reduction against the investor-owned utility rates. But I think what we really want to focus on is the community programs that it offers and the jobs and building resilient programs within the boundaries of our city. And that means solar programs, microgrid programs, and other alternative and renewable energy programs that meet the needs of our program. Next slide, please. So what is community choice energy? Basically, we're going to create the Long Beach Community Choice Energy Program, which isn't an alternative to the investor-owned utility supply system, but our incumbent utility, Southern California Edison, would continue to deliver those electrons through its existing infrastructure, the transmission wires, the distribution channels that it has in place. And then ultimately, you as the customer get competitive rates out of that. So to break that down one level further, we're not truly going away from Southern California Edison in the true sense of the word. They would still occupy about 65% of the revenue that they generate through their transmission and distribution. You would still see your energy bill coming from Southern California Edison. The difference would be that we, as Long Beach Energy, would be procuring that power and delivering and building those power plants, those micro power plants in the city of Long Beach, or procuring that power and bringing it in and taking the revenues that we're creating and redistributing those revenues back into the community under a 501c3 or a nonprofit organization. So it would create jobs and put revenue and new programs back into the community. Next slide, please. How it works. Well, it's governed by a board of local elected officials to oversee the decisions. We would be electing those officials. And then regarding the power purchasing, the programs, and the rate setting, that would all be done within the local program. It would be managed locally by not-for-profit entities, as I mentioned earlier. So any excess revenue all excess revenue would be reinvested into the community through a series of on-bill financing or innovative energy programs that we are going to create within the city itself. So community programs can focus on historically underserved and disadvantaged neighborhoods. They can provide rebates, no-cost and low-cost energy programs, job training, and employment opportunities, which are all very, very important to the diversity of our city. Next slide, please. The next 2 or 3 slides we pulled from the City of Long Beach Development Services as they have been going through the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. It really goes hand in glove with the Community Choice Energy Program. And the Long Beach CAP, the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan, is due to go before the City Council for approval, hopefully later this year. They are waiting to see what the outcome of the direction of Long Beach Community Choice Energy is, because it really determines the outcome of a lot of our greenhouse gas reductions. But I want to really point out the 4 slides or the 4 boxes here that we pulled from the slides. These are the different neighborhoods within Long Beach. And you can see it's very obvious the social vulnerability of the diverse neighborhoods that we have, the extreme heat vulnerability in some of the different class neighborhoods that we have, the greenhouse gases that we're recognizing through Cal EnviroScreen 3.0. You can see where the heat is, the air pollution concentrations. And then ultimately, you can really correlate those to our current and existing COVID-19 cases in these communities. So there's a direct correlation and a direct connection to low income and diverse neighborhoods that we really want to focus on. And I think that's really one of the main charges of Long Beach Community Choice Energy. And this was all derived through a Long Beach climate change vulnerability assessment that was conducted in 2018. So next slide, please. I think really what we want to point out in this is why this matters in Long Beach. Climate and air pollution are very prevalent here. We've got very high asthma rates. We've got high cancer rates, higher than most parts of other parts of LA County. And certainly, some parts of Long Beach are much worse than others that are directly relevant to port and goods movement and some of the air pollution through transportation. And I want to point that out. If you look at this is from a 2015 production inventory, emissions at a glance. You can see stationary energy sources are at about 44%, waste at about 6%, and transportation is about 50% of our climate and air pollution. And how do we meet future goals and targets of GHG reductions? If you look at the solid line there, those are the target or the forecast. And if we want to get into the targets of greenhouse gas reductions through 2045, if you move to the next slide, the only way we'll get there, excuse me, the following slide after that, I'll get to that, but we'll get there through community choice aggregation. And this is a slide that actually came out of the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. And Long Beach City staff has recognized that the only way we can meet the goals of GHG reductions are by either joining an existing community choice program or creating our own community choice aggregation program. Can we jump back to the previous slide, please, Deanna? Excuse me, jump back to the one previous. Thank you very much. What are some of the Long Beach climate impacts? We've got, I think it's recognizable to all of us. We've got more frequent, intense heat waves that we've experienced over the last several years. Air quality is expected to worsen. I think we've seen a heightened air quality not non-improvement over the last few years, because, you know, we've got more freight coming in, more trains moving, more trucks moving, et cetera. We've also recognized flooding and sea level rise. These are proven components that that we're recognizing here in Long Beach in the various communities. To some communities worse than others. Sea level rise, I think we recognize in Belmont Shore and certainly parts of the waterfront of Long Beach. You're going to see that much more. Extreme heat, and they, you know, as you get a little further away from the coastal climate, you're getting much more extreme heat. Poor air quality near the port. Obviously, drought has been a problem throughout the state of California over the last 40 or 50 years. You can look at those cycles, and then flooding. We've got, you know, flooding episodes, you know, every 10 years or so. Next slide, please. I want to get back to total reduction needs. If we did nothing and stayed, you know, status quo with Southern California Edison, you know, you're going to look at by 2030 metric tons of CO2 reductions per year, about 53,000 metric tons. If you add the port's clean truck programs, we will see another additional 25,000 metric tons. And you can go down the list. Recycling and organics diversion is substantial. Kudos to the city of Long Beach for doing that. And then we get into retro commissioning of ordinance and reaching codes, and that's an additional 12,000. But if we move forward with the community choice aggregation program, we can really accelerate all of those targets. And you can see the numbers, they speak for themselves. And these were third-party numbers that came from third-party consultants. Next slide, please. So how can CCA providers, I think these are some of the examples of what's being done up and down the state, of what other providers of community choice programs are doing and implementing programs to address environmental justice. Marin Clean Energy, which was one of the pioneers in community choice energy, they started over 10 years ago. They built a 10 megawatt solar program at a local brownfield site in Richmond. It was a 50% local hires program, extremely successful. Marin Clean Energy had a microgrid program that partnered with Marin College and Tesla to couple solar with battery storage. And you can see some of the others that I won't read, but I do want to point out our local Clean Power Alliance, which is LA County's program that has 31 cities as part of the Clean Power Alliance. They just recently created a $1 million COVID-19 relief program to offer bill credits to their impacted customers. So these are just a few examples of what we could do once we have formed our own CCA. Next slide, please. And I'll be wrapping up here shortly. These are the existing programs. We've got 21 existing community choice energy programs in the state of California today. You can see several of them there. And within each one of these, there's multiple cities that attach to these programs. Los Angeles Clean Power Alliance has 31 cities that include Oxnard and Malibu and City of Santa Monica and Rancho Palos Verdes. Western Community Energy is one, and Desert Community Energy are two of the most recent launch programs that have several cities out in Western Riverside County as part of their programs. Those programs that are getting ready to launch in 2021 are Alameda, San Jose, San Diego. San Diego will be one of the largest programs, and Irvine down just south of us in Orange County is in the process of launching. So you can see this is, you know, we're not pioneers in this. This is not new. It's something that we need to be adopting. Next slide, please. And this is my last slide before I turn it over to Elliot. What are the different options for Long Beach? We've got really 3 options, 4 possibly. We could continue at Southern California at it as is, status quo, and keep going down the path we're going, which in our opinion is not the right choice. We could partner with an existing joint power authority, JPA, like the Clean Power Alliance, which is LA County's program that I alluded to earlier. And we would be the 32nd city that would join their program. We could join the Cal Choice Energy Authority, which was started by Lancaster Clean Energy. Or there's other CCAs that are forming that we could possibly attach to. But I think at the end of the day, we are promoting our city council to most likely, we have to file an implementation plan by the end of this year. And I think the quickest route to do that and the best route to do that would most likely to be join the Clean Power Alliance. So with that, I'll go ahead and flip it over to Elliot. And thank you for your time, folks.
Thanks, Clay. Hi, my name's Elliot, and I just wanted to speak with you all about what brings me to support Community Choice Energy. And actually, if we could move to the next slide. And we could move to the next slide, please.
I think we dropped off the slide presentation, Deanna.
Okay, well, that's okay. That's okay. I can still talk about. Oh, there we go. Great. So this is mainly a way that we can reduce the pollution that our electricity creates. When we talk about changing our energy systems, radically transforming our energy systems, we all understand that with climate change, we have about 5 to maybe 10 years before this planet reaches a point of no return, where you're really dealing with that extreme heat at a global level, where there's significantly less glacier ice and there's sea level rise all across the globe. And a big part of the energy challenge is not only our fossil fuel consumption and just driving our cars and things like that, but a lot of the fossil fuel consumption that arises from us turning on the light bulbs, using electricity. A lot of people may not recognize that, we only recently began phasing out coal, and we still continue to use natural gas, which is a fossil fuel, one that is very potent, one that has a higher heating effect more than carbon dioxide, methane, which is the main component of natural gas, to power our electricity. So we need to reduce the pollution that we're creating through electrical energy generation. And we also have the opportunity to keep our profits from energy consumption and energy production back into the community, reinvesting into our own local communities. This can give us the opportunity to have lower rates, to invest in our own infrastructure. For example, solar panels, investing in massive wind projects or clean energy storage projects. All of these investment opportunities arise once we start creating the economic impact that community choice energy can offer. One of the most important things for me is this transitions our economy to a local clean energy economy. Because as we know, a lot of the jobs and a lot of the economy around the port and Wilmington and Carson and West Long Beach is based on fossil fuel production and consumption. So we need to begin now implementing some of the infrastructure that is needed to transition our economy in a scientifically responsible manner so that we can reduce the pollution in the community and also make an impact in reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. So it generates prosperity, cleans the air, and can transition our society to a clean energy economy. So if we could go to the next slide, I just want to show just a couple of quick examples of what I'm talking about. This is an AES facility. Now this is a facility that the company AES, which is a natural gas company, mainly natural gas and other forms of energy, generates power here in Long Beach. They actually generate power for the city of Los Angeles. So this is owned by, no, I'm sorry, we could go to the next slide. This is a facility that is owned by the LADWP. And there are a lot of communities that live near this facility. I'm sure you all have seen this driving by. That's not just steam. That is natural gas. That is burning methane, which is a very potent, as we discussed, very potent greenhouse gas. and it creates a local effect in our community. And whether we're talking about this facility or a natural gas burning facility in the desert, you know, when we consume energy, it's important to know where we are sourcing that energy from. Are we using fracked natural gas that was extracted using controversial methods? Where are we burning that natural gas? In whose backyard? So when we talk about community choice energy, we are saying that we as consumers of electricity are now going to make the decision as to where we source our energy. And hopefully we won't be consuming energy in a manner that is unsustainable, that requires adding pollution to somebody else's backyard. This is our opportunity to make investments in clean energy in our own community. If we could go to the next slide. Yeah, and that's just another example of a natural gas facility, natural gas burning facility in Long Beach. And if we could go to the next slide again, please. So as you see, LA County has some of the worst air quality in the nation. This is the MATE study that's produced by the Air Quality Management District. And you see that dark purple area, that's Long Beach. And the ports of Long Beach, the ports of LA, where we have some of the worst air in the nation. And you'll also see over here by the peninsula, that's where you see some of those natural gas burning facilities. So it does generate a lot of that the emissions that we're talking about are coming directly from some of these local facilities. And what we're hoping to do with community choice energy is begin that transition. So I want to just go to our next slide. And when I talk about a just transition, what we're really talking about is getting the community actively involved in advocating for community choice. You know, when we are talking about transitioning our economy, we're talking about moving away from natural gas, moving away from fossil fuels. We have to remember that these are heavily invested powers that are at play. This is an infrastructure that it has been underway for decades now. So when we're talking about transitioning in a very short amount of time, we're going to need community advocacy at every level. And so part of the reason why I joined the Community Choice Energy is because I'm an activist. I've made a lifelong commitment to do everything I can to fight for this planet, to make sure that we leave it healthy and habitable for future generations. I find it to be one of our greatest responsibilities. And everybody who is in this working group, I know feels the exact same way, that they have made this personal commitment to themselves to make sure we leave this planet healthy and habitable for the future. So I just wanted to ask you all to support the working group, join the Community Choice Energy Project, and advocate with us, alongside us. Let your council member know that you support community choice. And with that, I just want to turn it back to, I believe is Francis or Clay. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much to all the speakers. Again, my name is Francis. I'm the organizer of the My Generation Campaign and Sierra Club. It's quite a mouthful. So if we lost some of you, I'm really sorry. Again, this stuff is really wonky, but I hope you at least grasp the magnitude of what we're doing with this group. I think Clay said really exceptionally, at least a 101 of how this thing works, meaning that we're actively creating local power. We're actively trying to bring the control back to us. And I think Elliot so eloquently put, and this is a larger impact, right? Power back to the people is not just literally the electricity that we get, but the political power that we can choose what we want, how we want it, and for how much. And these are massive things that we won't be able to do in our status quo monopoly with SoCal Edison. And so, you know, again, a lot has been said, but I really want to just make sure that everybody knows, like, it's safe. You're not alone if you're confused, but instead maybe a way to just like let you all know and see who's in this call. We actually want to do a really quick poll. We want to ask you, and Deanna, feel free to put the poll up now. We want to ask you why you're even in this call. What's calling you to come into something like a Community Choice Energy Working Group, what that means to you. And we also want to show those results back. And so I'll just give folks just a minute just to click on the poll Yeah, you can choose multiple or you can choose other. If you do choose other, please feel free to type into the chat what brings you here. I'll just give folks a little more time just to fill it out. Pretty cool we can do this, right? Yeah, and again, if you don't know why you're here, that's also okay. You can write, I don't know why I'm here in other, totally safe space, no pressure. All right, looks like folks are just wrapping up. Just a couple more seconds. All right, so if you look, this is pretty awesome. The number one reason why people are here is because they're concerned about climate change. Thanks, Tiana. And I think that's to no surprise. We are all acutely aware of the impacts that are currently going on, the diaspora that is currently happening, and even in your own backyard, you may be seeing how different it is, how it's getting hotter, how fires are getting out of control. The list goes on, right? We all live in a world, and therefore we see the effects all across the world. The second reason is because of how environmental justice communities, what some people may refer to as low-income communities of color, are disproportionately affected, especially in Long Beach. That disparity couldn't be seen any clearer than the West Side versus the East Side. A lot of folks also chose because people deserve to choose who they buy their energy from. We exist in a monopoly, and this, as Clay put in the Assembly bill, we are technically allowed to have a non-monopoly, aka just like fair game regulation, we get to actually choose where we use this essential resource, something where everybody, especially during a pandemic, we're acutely aware of how much energy we need to consume and how vital it is to exist in this society. Lastly, we saw some other. So I actually haven't seen anybody chat into the other box, which is totally fine. There are a lot of different reasons why you're here. If you just got pulled in by your friend or your loved one, all the better. We're glad to have you. So yeah, take a good look. This is a reflection of your own community. This is a reflection of the concerns and the values that everybody in this call and at large Long Beach carry within themselves. And so I kind of want to piggyback off of what Elliot said. If you look back onto the presentation, sorry if it's just so presentation heavy, it's a lot to go through. We're trying to do our best so that it's accessible. The big thing that we really need everybody to do right now is to sign up. I know that you can't click on the link right there. Again, we will be sending out that presentation after the webinar, and it'll actually direct you to a Google form where you can just fill out your basic information. That's all stays in-house, so it doesn't go anywhere else. And we just want to make sure that you are always in connection with and engaged to the working group. The second thing is that if you have any questions and you have any concerns, please email ccaforlbc@gmail.com. This is where we will do our best to respond to every question and every need you have so that we have full transparency and you can learn with us. And so this is all great. Having you all join is amazing, and it really moves me, especially as an organizer, to see so many people. But the second part that we're going to ask everybody to do is use your personal political power. This is why we stay organized, right? It's not just so that individually we care about climate change, environmental justice, having a non-monopoly, or whatever other reasons brought you to this. The idea is that we can all synthesize together and advocate for a common goal, aka a CCA in Long Beach. And this is exactly where I need you to step up and stand with us. We actually have finally gotten this onto the City Council agenda, Long Beach City Council agenda. The meeting is on Tuesday, August 18th at 5 p.m. For some of you, this may be the first time you step into Long Beach City Council meeting and you were asked to give public comment. And if that's intimidating, no worries, we will walk you through the entire process. We are filled with different organizers and community activists who are right there with you and have done that ourselves. And what we're really asking you to do here, again, is to use that political voice, something that where you can give your personal truth that nobody else can take away from you, and testify about why these issues matter to you and why that comes down to approving a CCA in Long Beach. And again, this is another great reason to sign up. Unfortunately, right now, City Council hasn't put out the official link so that you can sign up right now. Otherwise, obviously, it would be the presentation. But by signing up with us, we will be able to keep you in the loop, stay engaged, and stay informed about what moves to make when things come. So hopefully that clarified anything. This is kind of the critical piece. Now that you have an understanding of what's going on, the next part is to continue to stay engaged, stay educated, and ultimately use your political power so that we can win. Again, that might be a lot, but we've all been through it, and this is how we can build power and we can change our world for the best. So actually at this point, like I promised at the beginning, we would take questions because we want to know what you're thinking about, where you're confused, where you're concerned, etc. Again, there's no stupid questions. And so we're asking everybody to actually chat in your questions into the text box. If you don't know how to chat into the text box on the Zoom, you'll see at the bottom next to leave 3 little dots. It'll say more. Once you click on more at the top, it'll say chat. Just click on chat and automatically a little window will pop up. So please, if you have any questions, just type into whatever thoughts you have, and we will field those questions and answer them as they come. So type away.
Looks like we have a few questions in the chat box.
Yeah, so questions team, feel free to answer them as they come.
Yeah, this is Clay. I'm seeing one about the city council meeting postponed for months. The Long Beach Energy commissioned a feasibility study to be conducted last year. It was completed in October of last year. Long Beach Energy sat on it for a few months. They tried to present it at December city council meeting with 1 week notice, and there was not enough time for any of us to be responsive, including city council. So city council tabled that for a couple of months, and then obviously COVID hit and it really derailed the community choice energy feasibility study coming back from Long Beach Energy. So next week at the 18th city council meeting, Long Beach Energy will be presenting their findings of the feasibility study. Ted Berdacki, the CEO of the Clean Power Alliance from Los Angeles County, will also be presenting on what it would look like if Long Beach joined the Clean Power Alliance. And ultimately, we anticipate the city council will be taking some course of action. We don't know exactly what that is today, but we certainly would ask all of you to engage your city council district member or council member and voice your opinion of support.
There was another question that was asked, and I'll just read it off. They asked, why are some communities eligible for community choice energy programs and why are some not? If anybody wants to take that.
Yeah, I can take that. Every city is eligible to create or start a community choice program. They need to opt in. They need to go through the exercise with city council to do just that. That's the position that Long Beach is in currently. We're asking Long Beach to create their own community choice energy program and create a joint power agreement to do so. That would be our best option. Second best option would be to join another program. But to answer the question point blank, those cities that reside within LA County could choose to join the Clean Power Alliance. They just need to fill out a form via all the political channels and submit that to the Clean Power Alliance to sign on, and it goes through their process. And that's the process that we will be possibly going through starting next week at the city council meeting. So this is enacted into law. Every city in the state of California has the option to create or start or join a community choice energy program. I will state, as of today, about 10 million customers in the state of California are under some community choice type program. They anticipate half of the ratepayers in the state of California to be under a community choice program in the next 3 years. So this is not a new movement. It's gaining tremendous traction, and we just would hope that our city decision makers make the right decision to move the city of Long Beach in the right direction. Francis, why don't you take the lead on the questions? And we do have Angelina Galitovas on the call. If we've got any very technical questions, she certainly could address them for us.
Yeah, so there's actually a really great question from Varenka. I hope I said that right. Apologies if it's not. Question is, are the green energy sources already available and we just have to join another program, or do we need to establish a new one?
Angelina, I'd like to ask you to chime in on this, but I'll take the first part of that question. If and when we create a community choice energy program in Long Beach, we will be establishing a lot of different projects to create within the boundaries of Long Beach. Solar programs, microgrid programs that encompass solar and energy storage. We'll be looking at larger projects, trying to enhance geothermal within Long Beach, which is a 100% renewable resource. We will be looking at potentially offshore wind, which, you know, you're not looking at offshore wind where you could see it. Where you generate offshore wind is roughly 30, 35 miles offshore. So you wouldn't even be able to see those turbines, but we would be creating many opportunities and jobs in the boundaries, hopefully within the boundaries of Long Beach, and maintaining that local control. Angelina, do you have any follow-up on that?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just wanted to clarify one thing you said, Clay, before. You very eloquently explained that all cities that are eligible to join a CCA, that is all cities in investor-owned territory utilities like PG&E, Southern California Edison, and San Diego Gas and Electric. If you reside within the territories of a municipal utility like LADWP, Pasadena, or Glendale, you do not have the option to join a CCA because you already have a municipal utility. With regards to green resources, if the state meets its goals to reach 60% of renewable energy by 2030, we need about another 25,000 megawatts of new green resources. The CCA programs are generally more aggressive, so we would need to be establishing new green energy programs, just like Clay suggested. The benefits of CCAs, of course, are a focus on local resources, local power sources, local projects, local jobs, local economic development. So CCAs would presumably be much better positioned to tap into the existing geothermal, building incorporated projects for microgrids, for energy resources, for electric vehicle charging infrastructure, and for monetizing grid services that can be provided by the CCAs to the larger grid. So a focus on much more aggressive local energy and DER projects would be the benefit that a CCA could bring to the table much faster.
Thank you, Angelina. So we had another question, and I'll answer this one really quickly. It was about city council meeting and just about how someone couldn't come, obviously because of the pandemic and the quarantine. And that's actually my fault. I should have clarified. All of the city council meetings are virtual, meaning you can testify in the comfort of your pajamas in bed. There's no one stopping you. You can do whatever you want and nobody would know. And that's kind of one of the cool things about this time, right? If you remember, you have to drive all the way over to city council, struggle for parking. If we don't fight somebody for a spot, and then you got to somehow make it into the meeting just in time to give comment. And that's just not our reality anymore. Again, another great reason to fill out the form and stay engaged, because once we have that link, we send it to you and you just testify from wherever you want to be. So there's that. And I hope that clarified that for folks. I also chatted in the link for the Google form. This is, so if you click on it right now, you can fill it out right now. It's totally great. Or again, this will also be sent out via the email for the follow-up that, since all of you have joined, you will automatically receive. And it'll also include the form. I think I already said that in the same sentence. My bad. It's been a long day. And so there's another question that I want to field out. It's, what kind of jobs would this create if we pass the CCE? And would it be jobs for the people of Long Beach?
Yeah, I'll be happy to jump in on that. Feasibility study that was administered details the jobs and what types of jobs, but there are quite a few jobs that will be created, and we will absolutely create local hires and local hire programs. We'll be working with various unions on creating apprentice programs that are good paying jobs, and those will absolutely be, you know, first right of refusal for Long Beach citizens, and that will be part of the mandate and has been part of the mandate for many other CCAs that have already started their program. So to answer the question point blank, absolutely. How many jobs really determines, you know, how quickly we can accelerate various programs and launch various solar initiatives and other renewable energy programs. But I think you can probably surmise that, you know, we're looking at accelerating quite a bit of power projects here locally, and that equates to, you know, considerable jobs.
Thank you, Clay. So just be mindful, we want to do a pretty good stop at 6 o'clock, just to respect everybody's time. We know it's around dinner time, and you probably have loved ones who are waiting for you to hurry up and come to the dinner table. So we want to respect that. So we'll just take a couple more questions. There's a really good question by Diane Daly. What are the arguments you're having to fight against this initiative?
Well, there's a few. Obviously, the investor-owned utility, Southern California Edison, wants to retain its market share. They've got their local IBEW, Linesman 47 group that, you know, they've been a little bit outspoken and opposed. So we expect some opposition from them. You know, I think there's some risk factors that need to be considered. There's some Long Beach senior staff members that are, you know, evaluating what are those risks for some of the exit fees under the PCIA, which are components of starting a CCA. But all those concerns will be mitigated and are being mitigated right now. So, you know, like everything else that's good, you're going to have opposition from someone. But I think our real opposition right now is most likely some of the union linesmen. Angelina, do you have a comment on that?
I mean, an initiative like this, because it is, as Clay pointed out, infringing on some of the vested interests, you will certainly have some pushback. But to turn it to the positive side, if you look at all the CCAs and all the initiatives that have been undertaken by CCAs, as the presentations also pointed out, they have all been successful. They have all brought programs and they have all brought income back into the community and served the community. So the risk, from a risk point of view, the risk is minimized by those potential benefits. And every day that a city that can join a CCA and successfully structure a program that I can optimize for the maximum benefit is leaving money on the table. And there's no need to have a non-symbiotic relationship with the utility. There certainly can be a very symbiotic relationship between the CCA and the existing utility where they can complement each other, because I mean, the utilities may be protesting, but the fact of the matter is they lose no jobs, they lose no revenue, because they're still controlling the wires and they're still maintaining the services that they had from before. The CCA is just jumping in to optimize the service to that city and that community and provide additional benefits at a lower cost to its residents in the form of jobs as well as tangible programs and income.
Thank you, Angelina.
Thank you,
That
Angelina.
was so beautifully said, and I hope that really hits home for folks. So, you know how I said a couple minutes ago we'll take a couple more questions? I kind of lied. That's our last question. We're out of time. But again, if you have any more questions and we're too shy to type them into the chat, I feel you, I see you, I understand. But please email CCA for LBC at gmail.com. If you have any more questions, any thoughts, any ideas, or if you want to get more involved, all the merrier. This is for the community, right? So this is where the community gets to have its input. Again, we will send out a follow-up email with the presentation, the Google form to sign up, as well as a way for us to be able to send back to you when we get the city council meeting. talking points and all the other good organizing that goes into making an impact. But for now, again, thank you so much for taking time out of your Monday evening to join us for this pretty awesome and interesting webinar. We really appreciate it. I'm going to close just by saying that this is not a moment, it's very much a movement. This is just one part and one piece of much larger things all happening. And by being pieces, these are opportunities where people just like you get to be involved and make your truth our reality. So I'll close it there, actually. Thank you all so much and have a great and safe evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, all.